Thank you for joining me on 13 Plus. I'm Cali Lichter, and this is On the Docket, a weekly recap of crime and court in and around the state of Michigan. This week, we learn of new charges against a Kent County mother accused of murdering two of her children and abusing a third. And we bring you to Minneapolis, where immigration and federal agent activity is heating up. All of that and more is On the Docket. The identities of the men believed to be behind the trigger in a deadly mass shooting in Muskegon were unknown for months to at least the public and the media, but now they have been identified and charged. Two 25-year-olds are in Michigan Department of Corrections custody on parole violations and are facing 16 counts each. The Muskegon County prosecutor hopes the two men believed to be behind a December mass shooting are locked up for life.
Our goal moving forward will be to make sure that neither one of these individuals see the light of day again.
Monday, Prosecutor DJ Hilson, Muskegon Police Chief Tim Kozel, and Assistant Prosecutor Heather Bloomquist announced 16 charges against Taven Irvin and DeJuan Robinson. They say on December 6th, Irvin and Robinson shot and killed Joshua Fondren Jr. and Corey Marie May Watts while injuring three others, including children, in a Muskegon armed robbery turned fatal.
He knows this was a pretty horrific and tragic event. There were a lot of people inside the house at the time.
Hilson says the suspects and victims knew each other through the criminal justice system. The duo's 16 counts each include open murder, felony murder, assault with intent to murder, and felony weapons charges. Hilson says charging them with felony murder on top of open murder sends a message.
We really wanted to make it known that, our theory, our true theory is that this is a first-degree murder case.
He says charging them to the extent of the law sends another message to those coming into Muskegon and causing harm. Both men were on parole out of the Detroit area at the time of the murders.
I invite anybody to come visit Muskegon County who's here to live, work, or play. But if you're coming here to commit crime, pick another community. You will be charged very aggressively, and you're going to essentially be putting yourselves in this position.
The men are in the custody of the Michigan Department of Corrections, which allowed for more time spent on the investigation. Irvin and Robinson were arraigned on January 21st, and loved ones cheered as both men were ordered to stay in the Michigan Department of Corrections custody, where they could be locked up for life. A packed courtroom full of the loved ones of Joshua Fondren Jr. and Corey Watts, as the men who prosecutors believe killed the two in a mass shooting in Muskegon in December had their first appearance in court.
And he's a huge danger to society if he was to be released.
Police say Taven Irvin and DeJuan Robinson, both from the Detroit area, shot and killed Fondren and Watts and injured others, including children, in a Muskegon armed robbery turned fatal. Both men appeared virtually in court from the Michigan Department of Corrections, where they are being held on parole violations.
Felony murder is a felony punishable by life without parole.
Irvin and Robinson are being charged with 16 felony counts, including open murder, felony murder, assault with intent to murder, and felony weapons charges. Prosecutor Heather Bloomquist argued that Irvin should be denied bond as the crime was serious. He allegedly fled after and noted his criminal history.
All of that is to say this is outside of his criminal history. This individual has a significant violent past.
Her reasoning was similar for the request to deny bond for Robinson.
He has at least 22 prior felonies, and he's 25 years old. He has significant involvement in the criminal justice system.
With the judge agreeing.
The defendant's prior criminal history, it's lengthy, it's violent.
Keeping Irvin and Robinson in MDOC custody as the case continues. At the time of this taping, the men will be back in court in early February. And new information about the murders of three men, including one from West Michigan, who were shot and killed in Florida. And investigators say it was a random attack. Here's more on what deputies in Florida call that random attack by a suspect familiar to law enforcement officers. Senselessly murdered in a random tragic act. That's how the families of three men, including one from West Michigan, described their deaths after being shot and killed outside a short-term rental home in Florida on January 17th.
It's cold-blooded. It was premeditated. There was absolutely no issues. There was no conflict between these people. This is just random?
The families of Robert Kraft from Holland and Douglas Kraft and James Puchon, both from Ohio, say the men were attending a car show just south of Orlando when they were waiting for help after rental car troubles before heading home. That's when they say a man identified as 29-year-old Ahmad Boja watched them from a distance and, quote, approached and senselessly murdered the men in a random tragic act. Almost 5 years ago, Boja was arrested for attempted first-degree murder after shooting at cars at a gas station just south of Orlando, an incident captured in the video you see here. But court records show he was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Part of the conditions of his release were not possessing any firearms, but investigators say they found 2 guns in his home after the death of the 3 men.
Mr. Boja, you've got the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you.
Boja is charged with resisting arrest without violence and 3 counts of first-degree murder. He chose to remain silent during his first court appearance. Boja also has a history of drug-related arrest. And next on the docket, a West Michigan mother already charged with killing her daughter is now facing charges in her other child's death. The updates in the case against Irene Whitehead next on the docket. In late November 2025, Cedar Springs mother Irene Whitehead was charged with her 2-year-old daughter Riley's death from September of that year. She is now charged with her son Leo's 2021 death as well and abusing a 3rd child. But before we get to that, this was what we originally knew about the case.
Nearly 3 months after her 2-year-old, Riley Whitehead, was laid to rest, Irene Whitehead is facing charges for her murder.
In this case, you are charged with 2 counts. Count 1 is homicide, felony murder.
Appearing in court on Monday, Whitehead is charged with felony murder and first-degree child abuse. Her daughter, Riley, died on September 3rd of this year. The judge for the arraignment gave Whitehead no bond, saying there was clear evidence of proof of guilt in the case.
I do find that based on the statements in the probable cause affidavit, proof of guilt is evident and presumption is great in this matter. And so I think that this is an appropriate case to deny bond.
13 on your side obtained the probable cause documents, which shows numerous conversations between Whitehead and detectives where Whitehead admits to killing her child. In part of one conversation, detectives ask, "What are your intentions?" She answers that she wouldn't be here anymore. The detectives asking her intentions again, she answers saying that she'd die. Later, going on to say she killed her. 13 on your side interviewed Whitehead back in 2023, where she claimed her child was suffering from a rare variant of a common virus. When asked about why she kept putting her child in the hospital, she said, quote, "'Cause there was always people around. I didn't want them finding out what I was doing, so I'd make it look like a breathing episode." She then later admitting to suffocating her child. Even with these conversations, the judge says she remains innocent until proven guilty.
Ms. Whitehead, you will remain in the Kent County Jail pending those hearings.
Along with no bond, she entered Whitehead into a not guilty plea.
We are looking for tips into what we believe was the 2021 murder of Leo Whitehead.
The Kent County Sheriff's Office is asking for help as investigators reopen the case of 2-month-old Leo Whitehead, who died in 2021. His mother, 27-year-old Irene Whitehead, is already charged with killing her 2-year-old daughter Riley in September of this year by suffocating her with a bag.
During the course of our interview with Irene and the 2-year-old's death, she made statements that she had indeed killed Leo as well.
At the time, Leo's death was attributed to the flu, but with new information, including Whitehead's confession, Leo's death has been reclassified by death as a homicide.
Investigators had no information to lead them to believe there was foul play at that time.
Police say the circumstances in both children's deaths share similarities, and that community members may hold critical pieces of the puzzle.
What will help us with that investigation are any statements that Irene may have made to you, any text messages, maybe anything that you saw that seemed inconsistent at the time.
The sheriff says the family lived in Michigan and briefly in Georgia, and any medical visits or conversations from that time could help the case. Whitehead remains in the Kent County Jail, and her other young children are now in the custody of their fathers. Investigators believe the evidence will support more charges in Leo's death, but say they need the community's help to get there.
Cases like this have to be studied, have to be fully vetted to know how we can do better. Any help the community can give us to bring justice for Leo Whitehead.
Body camera footage of Whitehead's arrest was then released to the public.
You're arrested for the murder of Riley and Leo. Put your hands together. Just so you're aware, you're being lodged on 2 murder 1 charges. You have a key. Additional charges are going to follow, but you'll be notified of those later. Do you have anything on you that we didn't get the first time? No? Oh, we want to know that later.
Oh, 222.
Whitehead was then charged in the death of her son Leo on January 13th. On top of that new murder charge, she is facing another child abuse charge for abusing another one of her children for years. A Kent County mother was already charged with abusing and killing her daughter. Tuesday, that same mother was charged with killing another one of her children and abusing a third.
We have charged felony murder and child abuse in the 1st degree for Leo Whitehead as the victim. We have also charged an additional case of child abuse in the 2nd degree for Katina Whitehead.
Irene Whitehead faces life in prison for the September 2025 murder of her daughter Riley and the 2021 murder of her son Leo. Whitehead initially claimed Leo died while he suffered from parainfluenza 4, which she also claimed Riley had. But according to court documents, Whitehead confessed to killing Riley by suffocating her with a bag. During that same interview, detectives say she also admitted to killing Leo.
We were able to look at that confession to determine whether it's reliable, whether it was given voluntarily, and whether there was evidence to back that up.
Sheriff Michelle LaJoy Young and Assistant Prosecutor Elizabeth Bartlett says it was a combination of confession and tips or contacts that brought new life to Leo's case.
Investigating, so it was incredibly helpful for everybody who did take the time to reach out to us and helped us kind of bring the big picture together.
Whitehead is also being charged with 2nd-degree child abuse after the investigation found she abused another daughter from the time she was 6 months old.
And became more clear retrospectively that the same behavior was exhibited by the mom in the earlier 2 cases.
Whitehead has a 4th child, but there is no evidence that child was abused. Bartlett anticipates a preliminary hearing will run, where more evidence will be laid out in court. Now we have more details on what led up to Whitehead being arrested for Leo's murder and the other daughter's abuse. Sell kid on black market baby adoption, and black market toddler adoption. Those were 3 Google searches allegedly made by Irene Whitehead about her children, just months after detectives say she killed one child, and 3 years after they say she killed another. Whitehead was charged back in November for the September 2025 death of her 2-year-old daughter Riley, and on Tuesday for the 2021 death of her 2-month-old Leo and abuse of her 6-year-old daughter. In August 2020, police were called to Whitehead's house because her then 6-month-old daughter fell asleep with a blanket on her face. Another instance from when that daughter was 23 months old says she stopped breathing for approximately 1 minute, and Whitehead said she felt cold. But during her interview in November 2025, Whitehead told detectives that she wanted that daughter to stop being the favorite and thought by giving her a blanket before bed she would suffocate and die. The documents go on to say that in September 2021, 2 months after Leo was born, she Googled, quote, "Why do I feel like I regret having a baby?" 4 days after that, Leo was dead. The docs say she told detectives in November that she killed him the same way she killed Riley and that he was never supposed to be born. She told detectives in an interview transcribed in the doc that she thought her feelings toward her son would go away, but they instead built up, leading her to allegedly take Leo's life, which made her feel better because she wanted him gone. She also told detectives she, quote, "wanted to end it all and take her 6-year-old daughter and her 4th child with her after she, quote, got them back."
Court documents also say that she was scared of someone finding out that she killed her kids.
Whitehead will be back in court in early February. Next on the docket, we take you up north to Minneapolis, Minnesota, where ICE agents and federal agent activity is ramping up. Hear from a man who was mistakenly detained by immigration agents twice, and from a man scared of being taken in his own neighborhood next. Garrison Gibson wasn't expecting ICE agents to break down his door and detain him on January 11th. He also wasn't expecting, after being freed by a federal judge, that he would be detained again. But that's what happened mere hours after his initial release.
ICE agents breaking down his door and the threat of being sent back to a country he hasn't been to in over 3 decades. That was Garrison Gibson's reality for the past week until a federal judge's order released him, but a mistake put him back into custody.
Because I felt helpless, like I couldn't do nothing to help her, because I was basically taken for no reason.
Gibson, who hasn't been back to his home country of Liberia since he was a child, was at home with his family on January 11th when ICE agents broke down his door and detained him without a judicial warrant, all captured by his wife on her cell phone.
Soft knock. It was like a boom, 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 boom.
That we had a record for everyone to see, not just for us in the home, just for everyone to see how they're doing things.
Gibson was then held at the Whipple Federal Building and taken to a detention center in Texas before being released back in Minnesota on January 15th.
They took trophy pictures with their personal phones. Like, one stood by me on the right side of me, one stood on the left side of me. And they went like thumbs up and took pictures with their personal phone.
An order by a federal judge freed Gibson, citing regulatory and Fourth Amendment violations. But hours after his initial release, Gibson was detained once again during a check-in at the Whipple Building.
He said that for Garrison to be detained was a direct order from the White House from Stephen Miller.
He was let go after a few hours.
They messed up, and a lady from upstairs came down and told him to release me.
Gibson says he has no criminal record and has complied with all release conditions for over 15 years.
While he's scared to leave his house, Gibson's attorney says they are working to cancel a 2009 deportation order, which was changed to an order of supervision in 2021. And despite a planned anti-Muslim rally not going through a Minneapolis neighborhood, community members say they can't let their guard down. Even with documentation of naturalization, citizens are afraid to walk their own streets.
It was a quiet morning in Cedar Riverside, less than 24 hours after an anti-Muslim rally was supposed to march through the neighborhood but didn't. But resident Alejandra Aguilera is still on edge.
I want to blow the whistle, but I can't blow the whistle because I feel that then they'll go after me because they'll find out I'm Latino, you know, and that I was naturalized, not born here.
Aguilera was born in Honduras, but was naturalized in 2019. He's afraid his identity will make him a target for ICE agents in the neighborhood.
I keep that letter still, just in case, and sometimes I carry it with me because if an ICE agent stops me because they say he's Latino, he might be undocumented, then I feel like I should pull out the letter.
KARE 11 spoke to other residents in the neighborhood who did not want to go on camera, but are wary about outsiders being in the community. Riverside Plaza resident Mays says the presence of ICE agents around the building, which has a significant Somali population, is affecting the lives of everyone.
It's affecting not only the economy, it's affecting, the lives of people here, it's affecting the lives of everyone around us. It's a very stressful dynamic that we're in right now.
They say people are scared to leave the building and even go downstairs to get mail.
I am absolutely concerned for my community. I am absolutely worried about their safety, the safety of the children, the safety of everyone around me.
Even though fear stops Aguilera and others from blowing the whistle themselves,
I've also witnessed how the community itself has come together, and as best as we can, we stand up for our rights, our human rights, our rights as a sanctuary city, our rights as Minnesota.
He knows people are doing their best to keep their neighbors safe.
Aguilera believes instead of what's going on in his neighborhood, there should be increased pathways to citizenship because, quote, we are all Americans and together we make America great. Thanks for joining me in this episode of On the Docket on 13+. We have new episodes releasing every week, taking you into the courtroom for the latest updates and deep dives on crime in and around West Michigan. In the meantime, we'll bring you the latest on crime in court, both on air and online at 13onyourside.com. And when breaking news affects you and your community, we stream live on 13+ with what you need to know right when you need to know. We'll see you next time with updates on What's on the Docket.